What's up, you beautiful people? Thanks for checking out this video. Welcome to my channel. If you like it, please be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe and share at the end. You can go check me out on my other social media platforms at alignfitness.co.za for the website. You can go check me out on Instagram right here. Twitter, you can go check me out right here, and Facebook is Align Fitness. Okay, let's get into it now. This is the video that I mentioned before. It's going to be strategies and tips for dealing with holiday food anxiety. It's the week before Christmas now. Maybe you've already had a lot of end of year functions, some end of year parties. New Year's is coming up. All of those events and those functions where there might be foods that you don't usually eat. The first thing I'm going to do is give 7 strategies or tips that are applicable no matter where you are in your journey with food, whether you are aiming for healthy and sustainable fat loss, or you struggle with binge eating, or you are struggling with or recovering from a restrictive eating disorder. These tips will be helpful for you no matter where you are at. But I first wanted to just remind you, progress looks different for everybody. Somebody recovering from a restrictive eating disorder might feel like they made huge progress by eating a brownie. Someone who struggles with binge eating might feel like they made big progress by just eating one brownie and not feeling like they completely lose control, like they're a failure, and then just eating an entire box of brownies. Someone who is aiming for healthy and sustainable fat loss might feel like they made progress by saying no to the brownie in favor of eating less calorie dense food so that they can stay in a calorie deficit for that day. So please just remember that progress looks different for everybody. The first strategy, please do not make New Year's resolutions around diet and exercise habits. Do not do that, because okay, it's December 17th today. There's still 2 weeks left of December. If you tell yourself, oh, in the new year, I'll start with my new healthy diet and I'll start with my new exercise routine. If you're suffering from a restrictive eating disorder, oh, I'll start recovering in the new year. I'll deal with my fears and my fear foods in the new year. Or if it's fat loss, gonna change my life and exercise for an hour every day. If you do that, you have set yourself up now for 2 weeks of not making progress, of overeating, of under-exercising, or of not facing those fear foods and addressing the mental and emotional issues that led you to that point of having intense fears of different foods. So it's important to remember, I'm just going to use Christmas as an example, but you can use whatever party or holiday you want. Christmas is only one day of December. So one day, one meal that you eat more than you usually do, or that you eat foods that you usually don't eat, is not going to undo any progress, but 2 weeks could set you back pretty hectically if you every single day go, I'll do it in the new year, I'll do it in the new year, I'll do it later. So that's the first one. Do not make diet and exercise resolutions for the new year. The second strategy, regardless of where you are in your journey with food, is to not restrict your food intake leading up to the Christmas party or whatever party it is. That is setting yourself up also for a binge later, or for being super preoccupied with the food and then not being able to actually enjoy yourself at the party. So don't restrict. Eat healthily throughout the day so that you feel like you're in a good space when you do get to the party. Which leads me to the third point, which is make sure that you are in a good space mentally and emotionally going to the party. If you have a fight with your spouse or with a best friend, or you just wake up and you're not feeling good, do what you need to do in a healthy way to make sure that you feel calm and content and happy before going to the party. If you have a fight with your spouse, rather be half an hour late so that you can sort things out. If going for a walk around the block makes you feel calm and relaxed, go and do that. If you are recovering or suffering from a restrictive eating disorder, I am not saying go and exercise for 3 hours leading up to the party to reduce your anxiety or make sure you're in a good mental and emotional space. That is not healthy, so do not do that. But journal or go and do yoga, just have some quiet time, go and talk to the Lord, spend some nice quality time with a friend or with your husband or wife or something like that. Anything that you need to do that gets you in a really good space leading up to the party, because then the food won't be a crutch if you are feeling upset or a little bit bent out of shape. Fourth strategy is to talk to somebody beforehand, somebody that you can open up to and say, listen, I'm really feeling anxious about the food that's going to be there. If you struggle with binge eating, tell a person, please, could I come to you if I feel overwhelmed and like I'm going to lose control? Can I just come and talk to you? And then we wait for the feeling and the emotion to pass, because it passes after a couple of minutes. If you are recovering from anorexia, have that person there to go to if you feel like you're getting overwhelmed or like you might have a panic attack based on all the food that is there. I know it might be scary, especially if you haven't opened up to somebody before about what you might be dealing with, but you guys, I promise you, it is so much more common than we realize. There are so many people who struggle with disordered eating thoughts, and people who struggle with binge eating and restricting their food and then binging and then feeling guilty, or people who have got really, really intense fears of different foods. It's way more common than we think, and opening up to somebody, it really, really is helpful. Trust me, I know, I've been there. So be open with someone and you'll be amazed at how helpful it can actually be. The fifth strategy is to have a plan for all possible scenarios when you do get to the party, so that you know what to do in each one. By have a plan, I mean, if you struggle with binge eating, I'm going to get more into this when I go in depth in each one, but maybe tell yourself beforehand, I'm not going to take home leftovers because I know that they will be a problem for me and I might end up binging on them later. If you know that there's a particular food, like for me, just an example that I'm going to use, if I had seen a huge plate of different kinds of pizza slices, I might have felt overwhelmed and felt like I was going to panic. So tell yourself, know yourself, and beforehand go, if this happens, this is what I'm going to do. So I could have gone, if I see a huge tray of food with all these different varieties and I know it might make me feel overwhelmed, I'm going to go until that feeling passes. So know yourself, have a plan for all the scenarios that might come up. Okay, the sixth strategy, as I mentioned, is to remember that that party is only one day of the month, or if you've got two parties, it's only 2 days of the month. The month of December is 31 days. So this is not, oh, the whole of December is just going to be a food fest and feasting and no exercise and everything goes and there's nothing off limits. Christmas is only 1 day of December. New Year's is only 1 day of December. And like I mentioned in my previous video, I made this chart. This one is based specifically around this December, where the first fell on a Sunday and Christmas falls on a Wednesday. You can see here, as long as you have got more smiley faces where you did meet your goals, then red crosses where maybe you felt like you failed or you didn't achieve what you wanted to achieve. That's still progress, and these 3 days, Christmas Eve, Christmas, and Boxing Day, are not going to undo any progress that you might make. And by progress, go and check out my previous video, I'll link it below. But set goals for yourself, and if your goal is healthy, sustainable fat loss and you are in a calorie deficit, if you're in a calorie deficit for 20 of the 31 days in December, you are still making progress, and eating a big meal at Christmas is not going to change that. To keep going, you only fail when you give up and you stop trying. You can just get back on track tomorrow. And by get back on track, I do not mean restrict and get into that cycle. Or if you're recovering from a restrictive eating disorder, I don't mean, oh, well, you know, I messed up and I didn't eat a fear food today that I said I was going to eat. So now what's the point? I failed, I messed up. No, tomorrow is a new day. One meal, one party is not going to derail you or set you back from making progress. You just keep going, keep on keeping on, keep on keeping on. And then my last strategy that's applicable no matter where you are in your journey with food is, if all else fails, that voice in your head that is telling you you can't eat this, that's a good food, that's a bad food, that is completely off limits. Choose to ignore or argue with that voice. I read such an amazing book when I was recovering from anorexia. It was called Life Without Ed. It's by Jenny Schaefer. I'll link it below. It's a really incredible book. It's super helpful. But in that book, she talks about how that voice in your head, if you separate it from yourself, you view it more as like another person or the devil that's whispering things in your ear, then it becomes easier to ignore that voice or to argue with that voice and go, no, Ed, I called him Ed for eating disorder. You go, no, Ed, stuff you, I'm going to eat the cake, and I don't care if you think that it's a bad food and it's going to make me fat or whatever lie he's telling you, I'm going to do it. So if all else fails and you do have that voice playing in your head, just learn to ignore it or argue with that voice. Now, for people who are aiming for fat loss or for people who might struggle with binge eating, these tips are specific for you. The first one is, do not tell yourself, I can eat this and I can't eat this. Can we just throw off all of those chains that we put on different foods and those labels and those stigmas? Because telling yourself that you can't eat something inevitably sets you up for failure, because at some point in your life you are going to eat a brownie or you are going to eat a cookie, and if you've told yourself I cannot eat that, immediately you're going to feel like a failure and worthless, and that whole spiel that we've talked about. So do not say anything is off limits. You can eat whatever you want. Whether you should or not is a different story. And to go more in depth with this, I would say allow yourself to eat whatever you want, but make sure that it fits on one plate of food. Don't go back for seconds. If you want to eat a little bit of everything at the party, that's perfect, as long as it fits on one plate of food. If you would like to eat, skip out this or that and put more of a different food on, or if you would like to just eat one kind of food, that's fine, just as long as it fits on one plate. And count the cost with different foods. If you don't really enjoy a particular food, then rather eat something that you really do want to. So count the cost. Ask yourself beforehand, is this particular food worth it for me? And then also make a deal with yourself that you can eat dessert at the party. Usually there's a lot of different kinds of desserts, but choose one. Tell yourself, I can eat dessert, but I must pick one, and then that's what I'm going to go with. Or I'm going to have half of 2 different desserts, but leave it at that. Don't put all 8 different desserts on your plate, because that can lead to overeating and those feelings of guilt and food anxiety. So then you've got your plan, right? I'm going to eat 1 plate of food with whatever I want on it. I'm going to eat dessert, but I'm going to pick one, or I'm going to pick 2 halves of 2 different ones. The next strategy is to be careful with alcohol at parties, because alcohol is empty calories and it lowers your inhibitions. It makes you feel more relaxed, and I'll just eat this and that, and you might feel guilty about that later. Snack foods, the foods leading up to Christmas dinner or whatever party it is. Be careful with these, because what we tend to do is we pop one of these in our mouth and pop one of those, and those calories don't really count in our minds, and those can add up like crazy. Remember that you don't have to count calories on the day of the party or at the party that you're at, but it's a good idea leading up to them. So again, with the chart, if you want to count calories for all the days that you have a smiley face, that means that you would have hit your calories or been in your calorie deficit like you want to be. But you don't have to count your calories at the party. If you don't know how to count calories, just comment below and let me know. I can walk you through it. There are a lot of really cool apps that you can use to help you count calories and just to get a general sense of how much you are eating. Okay, the next tip is to focus on those smiley faces. Focus on the good and the positive days, and to make the choice that will make you feel the most proud of yourself. As long as you are being consistent and you have 21 smiley faces in the month of December, you are making progress. And then my last tip is to, just like that voice in your head that we talked about, when you choose to ignore it or to argue with that voice, if you do hear people making toxic comments about food, just you know, you don't need to say anything, but just remove yourself from the situation. Maybe go stand by yourself if what they're saying about, oh, you know, you made that food choice, or you guys know those comments that I'm talking about. Just remove yourself from that situation and don't worry about it. You don't need to stay in that environment where you start to feel guilty about the food choices that you made. Okay, so those are my tips and the strategies for people who are aiming for fat loss or for people who might struggle with binge eating. Now, strategies and tips for people who are struggling with or recovering from a restrictive eating disorder like anorexia or orthorexia or bulimia or whatever. Okay, I know that this is easier said than done, but just try to let go of your those rigid controls and rules that you have around foods. And then another tip with that is to see this as an opportunity to start to trust your body again, and just to see your body knows exactly what to do with the food that you put in it. So just see it as an opportunity to really start to trust your body again. Another tip is to take 1 or 2 dishes that you feel okay eating, just in case when you get there it's too much for you and you feel overwhelmed, and all of the foods that are there, just not knowing how many calories are in them, what the ingredients are. If it just feels like it's too much for you, then at least you've got 1 or 2 dishes there that you can fall back on and that you do feel okay eating. Try not to do that. Try and branch out and eat the different foods, but I'm saying just in case, because remember, just have a plan for all possible scenarios. Then another part of the plan is try at least 1 fear food while you are at the party. Best case scenario, you'll try more than 1 fear food and you won't really worry about the 1 or 2 dishes that you took that are your safe foods. Just try branch out, try different foods, and not in a I'm going to purge these later with exercise or laxatives or throwing up or whatever. Another tip, and this is quite a difficult one too, but remember that you can say no to foods. And if you feel like somebody is pressuring you, you know, if people are aware of the situation and you feel people pressuring you, you can ask them in a nice, polite way, maybe change the subject, or can we talk about something different? You know, I'm getting a little bit anxious. If somebody's trying to push something on you, just remove yourself from that situation. Go and talk to your person that's at the party, something that is gonna just remove you from that situation and alleviate any food anxiety that might be coming up. And another tip that I've found useful is to make the eating fun. If you're sitting there and you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to make this fun. I'm a chopped judge and now I'm going to taste out this food and that food. Focusing on something fun like that helps distract you from the anxiety that you might be feeling about eating different foods. And then I just want to end off by saying that be selective with the parties that you go to in the holiday season. Choose 2 or 3 or 4 parties that you really do want to attend in place of ones that you would be like, well, okay, I could give that one a miss. That helps you to focus on the goals that you want to achieve and make the decisions that will make you the most proud of yourself at the end of the day. And you know where you are in your relationship with food. Know yourself. If you know that taking leftovers home with you or leaving all the leftovers in the house if you host the party might lead to binge eating or to a panic attack over food, give the food away. Go and give it to someone in need, or you know, give it to your guests and say, oh no, you take it home, please. Know yourself and be honest with yourself about these things, and write down the plans and these tips and strategies, and have them in mind when you do go to the different parties. And just remember, above all, like the memories that you make at the parties and the people that you spend the time with, and focusing on the joy of the occasions. Those are the things that you're going to remember. And the food that you eat, your body is going to digest it and it will pass, and you can get back on track. Whatever getting back on track means to you, you can get back on track right after the party. And you only fail if you stop trying at something. You did not mess up your fat loss goals by eating more than you usually eat at one meal. You do not need to purge a brownie or ice cream or whatever bad food it is that you ate if you are struggling with or recovering from a restrictive eating disorder. Your body knows what it is doing, and just remember, we're just aiming for more of these guys for most of the days in the month. Just remember. this is the aim of the game and the name of the game. More smiley faces. Those goals are totally specific to you and what you are trying to achieve. And yeah, that's it for this video. I hope that these strategies and tips have been helpful. Please comment below. Let me know if there's something else you'd like to see. If you wanted to know more about the calorie apps or how to count your calories or to set up and tailor make goals that will help you to achieve what you want to achieve on a personal level, please just let me know. I would love to hear from you. And I hope that you're having an awesome holiday season so far. Remember, the new year will come when the new year comes. We are in the here and the now, and let's focus on what we can do to make progress for ourselves right now. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please be sure to comment below, like and subscribe and share, and go check out my other social media platforms. I love you guys, and you must have an absolutely awesome day, and I'll see you in the next video.